What's up guys, this is Miasin. So with 2025 right around the corner, I felt like it was the perfect timing to make a video on the best sets that are coming out in the next year, I guess you can say. And there's 4 of them. So the first one is Supreme Darkness. I think it's coming out in like January 23rd, 1 full week before Weisters Orlando. And then after that, we have the Blue Eye Structure deck that is coming out in mid-February. And then after that, we have Maze of the Master. That is coming out, I think, like mid-March, something like that. And then finally, we have Alliance Insight that will be in April, if I recall correctly. And all 4 of those sets, they are meta relevant. I mean, one of them, I guess you can say the Blue Eye Structure deck is not really a set. I guess it is a product. I mean, obviously it's a structure deck, so we already know all the cards that are coming from the OCG, or I guess the new cards. But the cards that will be, I guess, special just to the TCG, so the reprints, we don't know them yet. But like I said, every new card we already know about for the most part. Alliance Insight is the only one that, as of the making of this video, we don't know like the full set spoiler yet. Even the OCG doesn't have it yet. We still have gotta wait like a couple more weeks, and then we'll know exactly what Alliance Insight has to offer. So I will most likely make a revisit on this video very soon. Anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And also huge shout outs to my sponsors, Inspire TCG as well as Dueling. Again, they got the best merch, so deck boxes, play mats, and art cards, so please check them out. The link will be in the description box below as always, and use the coupon code YASIN656 for 5% off. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, Gladiator Beast is finally getting some nice support in Supreme Darkness. I'm not gonna pretend like it's gonna be like the next top tier deck, but it is not too bad. And it's not like Tenpai Dragon 2.0, where you need your battle phase in order to do something. The deck, it actually has a lot of nice combos that are super explosive. The deck is good going first, so it's not like a battle phase gimmick. It's a really good deck, I like it, but it has some intrinsic flaws. I don't really think it has any real 1-card combos other than the rescue monsters. Apart from that, it's just a bunch of 2-card combos. And it doesn't have the space for like infinite non-engine, because otherwise you will start breaking, unfortunately. But it's still a cool deck. Crystron also gets some nice support in Supreme Darkness. Very good deck, actually, if you know how to play it. But it is also extremely complicated, not only to build, but also to play. It's gonna give you a headache, but it will reward you in the long run. I think it is a deck that, personally, I'm a huge fan of it, but it's, like I said, it's not for everyone. So, yeah, Crystron, be on the lookout for that one. Speedroad also gets some decent support, but that one, I'm less of a fan, because it's also a bunch of cards that aren't necessarily that great on their own. Obviously, the Clacronol, whatever, that card's cracked, right? It's a 1-card combo, if I recall correctly, and also Terratop is a 1-card combo. But then you also have a bunch of weird 1-ofs and 2-ofs in the deck. The spell cards for Speedroid, they're not the best. The deck doesn't always lose to Nibiru, but it also doesn't always beat it. It's kind of weird. I don't know, the deck just, like I said, feels a little weird, and it's also a little frustrating that you're usually always locked under wind monsters only. So there's a lot of cards that conflict in the deck, but it's still decent. You can't play Nibiru and Bestials in the deck, obviously, because you gotta control pretty much no monsters in order for you to summon Terratop with its own summoning condition. Obviously, you can normal summon it, but it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. And yes, Terratop is even better in its own deck than it is in any other deck. Okay, Tenyi, Sword Soul, I guess you can say, gets some new support. It's really just Tenyi cards, but they're very good. There's this level 4 monster, there's the Synchro monster. No complaints, overall, everything is nice. Evil Hero gets a lot of support, but not all of it is really relevant. Evil Assault, I think, is the best one. The spell card, obviously, so this one can special summon a Evil Hero monster from your deck, or you add it to your hand. So I think this is the only 3 of, but everything else just a bunch of 1-ofs and 2-ofs, especially for the extra deck. I mean, it's cards that you can play if you want to, but I don't really think they're going to change everything for the deck, like I said. Argus Star is the first wave of support, is not enough, but some more Argus Star cards have been announced in Alliance Insight, and low-key, they're not too bad. I think this deck might eventually turn into something, but it's not going to be worth picking up from Supreme Darkness, because it is extremely incomplete. Like, this doesn't do anything on its own. There's only 1 main deck monster, and then like 3 continuous trap cards. And it's like a weird gimmick of, it's kind of like Eldritch, where your continuous trap cards special summon themselves, but it's worse than Eldritch, so I don't know. It's just, like I said, we're gonna have to wait until this gets even more support in the future, but Alliance Insight is looking really good. Meteoractor gets incredible support in Supreme Darkness, which is actually funny, because it used to be like a not really archetype. There was no cohesion whatsoever, to all of a sudden, it's actually very legit. You recycle back your hand shops underneath your rank 3 monster again and again and again. So you can actually start with like 0 hand traps in your opening hand and actually end up having like a bunch of hand traps afterwards, because you're excavating cards and then you're putting cards from the top of your deck underneath your Xyz monster, and then you're bouncing back the materials from underneath your Xyz monster to the hand. So it's a weird loophole to like play around Droll and Logbird. It's actually really funny, and this deck actually has some nice options. It would have been completely cracked if there was a level 3 normal monster that was a Light Fiend. Then the Fiendsmith engine would have been unreal in this deck. But at the current moment, I think the best monster to play in tandem with the Meteor Actors would be something like Baby Dragon, because that opens up the door to Heraldic Seal, and also it's a win monster, so you can special summon Takatumborg when all you have is Baby Dragon. But yeah, Meteor Actor is really cool. I guess rewards good deck building, so that's really nice. The TCG exclusive is Mitsurugi. This one's actually not too bad, because it is a reptile-based deck that works very well with Ogdoadic, and also with aliens, because you can play something stupid like Cosmic Slicer Zero with the Raika engine, etc. And this card right here, Planet Pollutant Virus. And it's kind of like a skill drain on crack. If your opponent doesn't have the out to this, you win the game, basically. And also you have an Omni-Negate, because the Mitsurugi trap card is searchable when your ritual gets tributed, it comes back, and then you search any Mitsurugi card from your deck to your hand, and then your opponent tries to out the 0 that prevents your opponent from using the effect of monsters on the field, and you just go, nah, not gonna work. So yeah, this combo, actually someone did it against me on Edo Pro, and I was really impressed. So yeah, it's really cool that a reptile deck for once can actually kind of FTK people in a way. So Mitsurugi is much better than you think. It's not a garbage archetype. It is not super insane either, but it is definitely something that if you don't know how to counter it, you might actually just lose some games that you should have no business losing to. Arcana Force is not like super legit, but it's still an FTK deck because it turbos out Arcana Force the World, which skips your turn, and that is Extreme Cancer, so you really need to be on the lookout for that deck, but it's not honestly gonna be doing much of anything. Sharks get a new monster, Jet Shark. It's a decent card, but it's not like super insane. The White Force deck gets insane support. Azamina LZ is incredible, however it also gets a downgrade because the Snake Eye engine is no longer worth playing in the deck at all, because original got banned, so obviously you can't really bridge into your Snake Eye cards using the White Forest into Azamina. So in other words, the best way to play the White Forest deck is with the Primate engine and the Fiendsmith engine. Of course, the Fiendsmith engine is always going to see play. And speaking of Fiendsmith and Primate, both of them get incredible support. I mean, especially the Primate engine. The Fiendsmith engine, technically this card is seeing play in the OCG. The card is Fiendsmith Kyrie. It has a graveyard effect that allows you to fusion summon using like monsters from your field, and also in like your spell and trap zone equipped to your monsters, which is relevant when Lacrima is a thing, but Lacrima is not a thing. And this new Fiendsmith monster honestly is extremely difficult to summon without Lacrima, so I don't think in the TCG it's going to be super relevant, but in the OCG it's actually a good card. I have seen a lot of replays where people were actually summoning this card. They were sending it with Fiendsmith in Paradise, and it's not too bad. You can recruit back your Engraver from the Banished or something. Whatever, there's a lot of like cool things that you can do. It's a decent card, and it can be unaffected by card effects, which is annoying, but it's not like super broken or anything, even if you get to summon it, which again will be very difficult to do without Lacrima. The Primate engine, however, gets like extremely cracked because another barrel is ridiculously overpowered. This card does a lot. It's gonna set your Lordly Load and then search your Drill Beam. And Drill Beam is a very good card. You do not need to play Roar, honestly, in Blue Eyes, but if you want to, you can, but then you have to play like the garbage level 1 tuner bricks, like Flamvolgard, or I forgot the name of the other one, the light monster in the OCG that everybody's cutting, actually, so that extra package is not needed. But yeah, another barrel is also seeing play in the Fiendsmith deck, so you can play like Fiendsmith Primate, and like I said, it is very legit, it's not a joke. Malice is getting some support in a way with Template Skipper, but that card's not too great. Even the OCG, they're not really playing it. However, the Razor deck is getting ridiculous support, which is Twins of the Eclipse. This card is so overpowered that it deserves its own video, so I'm not actually going to waste any of your time in this one. All I can say is that this card single-handedly changes the way the Razor deck is played. This card is way too good, like unreasonably unfair. It makes it so that cards like Widow Anchor, Imperm, etc., they no longer deal with Razor Detonator, whereas before they actually did, because now your opponent can just chain Detonator, self-destruct, and then Twins of the Eclipse will revive back the Detonator with 2 materials, so you still have 2 pops. And then the Mermail deck is also getting some nice support. That's actually the wrong one. I meant Abyss Trite, I think. That card can revive back, I think, any water from your grave, so you can revive back the Water Bearer statue. But most importantly, we also have Passadra the Rumbling Atlantean that makes board breaking extremely easy in Mermail. Granted, you are not under Abyss Dweller, so if anything, Abyss Dweller really needs to get banned in the next ban list if you want to see a lot of Mermail. Okay, Mulch is coming out in Supreme Darkness, and this card wipes the floor with Mermail, because, with Malice, because every single time they summon either from the graveyard or the Banished, you draw one card, and yes, they're going to be doing a lot of special summoning from the Banished. A huge amount of it, so they will never full combo under Nialis, they're just going to pass doing nothing at all. Double Wild is a new free agent card in in Supreme Darkness. It's really good in Ubel. So basically, you can target like your Dark Beckoning Beast, and then you can search a level 10 monster with the same original type from your deck to your hand, and then you can discard a card and then special summon a monster with the same type as the added monster. You are locked under monsters with the same original type as the targeted monster for the rest of the turn. So, like I said, you target your Dark Begging Beast, you search your Spirit of Ubel, and then you summon it. You discard a card, and then Spirit of Ubel still searches because it doesn't negate the effect of the monster that you summon, and then you get like your Nightmare Pain, whatever, and then you play from there, and you're locked under Fiend, so you can't make the Varudras, but you can do everything else. Like, you can still Fiend Smith combo, you can still do a lot, and it's a quick play spell card, so that's also super awesome. And there are also two more cards in Supreme Darkness that I really have to cover before we can move into the Blue Eye Structure deck. So there's Abaku, whatever, as well as Lightstorm Dragon. So Lightstorm Dragon really good in Blue Eyes, which is coming out in 3 weeks after, and Abaku, the Lightless Shadow. I think that's the name of the card, like how you're supposed to pronounce it. It's not actually Chinese, it's something else, and it's also like a fictional cryptid. It doesn't even exist. But yeah, this card is extremely broken and like in Fiendsmith Unchained. I have seen some decks in the OCG that are pretty much like built to summon this card, and it's also going to be very good in the Evil Twin deck when that deck is going to be getting more support in Alliance Insight. I think it's this monster as well as the Link 1 monster, which we'll cover very soon. But yeah, this card is extremely overpowered. You can even revive back like the Dark Bearer statue with this card. It's insane. Like, both of its effects are broken. Anyways, the Blue Eye Structure deck, very good. Like I said, this deck is going to be tier 1 in tandem with the Primate Engine, so keep an eye out on that one. I've made a bunch of videos on it, so I'm not going to waste more of your time in this video. Gimmick Puppet also gets some nice support, but that deck is maybe not the best meta call right now because a lot of Bestials are seeing play, so it's not super ideal, but if everybody shifts to like Board Breakers, maybe this deck could be worth playing. Singularity Fiend, this is a new hand shop that the Ubel deck can play very well. So essentially it's a level 1 Dark Fiend with 0 attack, 0 defense, and it reads whenever your opponent special summons a monster monsters, you can discard this card and one spell, destroy that monster monsters. And then it's a hard once per turn. So essentially, if you play a lot of spell cards in your deck and your opponent even like special summons 5 monsters at the same time, you can go Singularity Fiend, discard, and another spell card, and then all those monsters die at the same time. It's low-key kind of scary. It's much better than you think. It's a very annoying card, but discarding one spell card, not everybody can afford that luxury. The Ubel deck maybe might want to play this card as a one-of, just because it is a searchable monster off of the Nightmare Throne, because it's a Fiend monster with 0 attack and 0 defense. Which is funny because it actually has nothing to do with Ubel, like nothing at all. This card was played by like Albert Einstein in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, like zero synergy whatsoever, but whatever, it's fine. Anyways, more cards from Maze of the Master, the XYZ monsters, X Cross Cannon, Y Dragon Year Head, and Z Zillion Tank. All of them, they're nice. I mean, you can do like a cute little ABC deck with these cards. I've, again, made a bunch of videos on ABC, so I'm not going to waste more of your time by talking about them here. And more cards, again, Schwarzschild Infinity Dragon, as well as Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Primal, also very good. You can play them either in the Galaxy Eyes deck or just like a pure Tachyon rank 8 OTK deck with like Shifter, where you go second. It's kind of like Tenpai, and it's honestly not even that bad, but I think I prefer them in the Galaxy Eyes deck. Just my 2 cents, but you don't have to do what I do. And also, there's a really cool Xyz monster that's coming out. It's Dragluxion. So you can even search like a Galaxy Soldier with this card when you summon it, and it's a generic rank 8 monster, so it's kind of cool in Cyber Dragon. And then you can use its effect to like summon Harbinger on top, and it doesn't lock you under anything, so that's also very nice. And just a good card overall. It's like the better rank 8 monster to play in your deck if you play actual Galaxy or Tachyon cards. And you can also search 7 Tachyon, which kind of feels like a cheat code. And this card is like actually insanely overpowered. This one is competitively relevant because the Raziel deck can also play it, even though I like to play this in other decks, like the Galaxy deck, the Tachyon deck, maybe not Cyber Dragon, but yeah, the Raziel deck kind of abuses this because they can reveal, I think, there's two monsters, Masquerade and like the Battling Boxer one, and then they can search Ice or X Raziel. No, sorry, the Battling Boxer I think is Fire, so it searches Sword or Node. But whatever, you get the point. It's the Seraph monster that they reveal, or Masquerade. And yeah, they can get their stuff going. And 7 Tachyon is also searchable by 7th Ascension, which already exists. So they can play 6 extra 1-card starters when this card is going to come out, and it's going to boost the consistency of the deck dramatically. So again, keep an eye out on Raziel. It's going to be seeing even more play when these cards are going to exist. And finally, in Maze of the Master, there's also another very cool card by the name of the Duke of Demise. So it is a fusion monster that requires 2 Fiend and or Zombie monsters. So in other words, I think you guessed it, but this is a new Super Poly target. So if your opponent ends on like Caesar and Fiendsmith Dies Irae, you can Super Poly away those 2 monsters, and then you summon the Duke of Demise. So it's not too bad. And you can also summon it off of the Fiendsmith Link 2 monster, the Sequence. And it's also not too bad because it has a graveyard effect and it gives you an extra normal summon for anything. It doesn't even have to be like a normal summon of a Fiend or a Zombie. So overall, this card is just, it's good. It also it creates some new lines for the Fiendsmith deck, depending on how you want to go. But I think this card will see play one way or another, either as a Super Poly target or as a card to fuse into using Sequence. But yeah, I've seen some nice combos with this card in like the Fabled deck, for example. Not that Fabled is going to be relevant, that's the reason why I'm not really talking about them here, but yeah, you get the point. Anyway, some more cards in Alliance Insight this time. We have the Adignister monster is very good in Malice, so again, respect those cards. They're going to make this deck even more resilient to hand traps, even though this deck doesn't really lose to anything other than like Lancia, Chaos Hunter, Molchiminialis, Molchibiforos, and Nibiru. Everything else doesn't really do anything against Malice. Dragon Ruler gets incredible support in Alliance Insight, and I'm not 100% sure it's going to be enough to make the deck tier 1, but it would be nice to see Dragon Ruler just be able to like actually do something in the competitive scene. This deck is actually extremely consistent. My only issue with it is that it cannot really play non-engine cards, otherwise you start breaking. So if your opponent does something that like lingers on your turn, you're kind of dead. But apart from that, I think you can even win through like Detonator and stuff like that, like the full Raziel field if your hand is good enough, but you have to deck build very well. So yeah, this deck has a very high ceiling, and if you go first, it's really hard to lose. And this deck doesn't really lose to the chummies either, because your opponent is going to have to like shotgun them against you, and you can just choose to like go, okay, tribute summon Amorphage Sloth past turn, and then you kind of just win the game. And you can also turbo out any monster floodgate with the Chasmatis, so you can go, okay, I'll send titled Dragon Ruler Waterfalls, send like I don't know, like a spell canceller, for example, and then on the opponent's turn, you go, I'll go Chasmatis effect again, copy the effect of Redox, send that as a cost, by the way, and then you revive back your monster that you sent, like the spell canceller, and then if you're playing against like a spell turbo deck, you win the game on the spot. So yeah, very good support, and I definitely recommend looking into Dragon Ruler. Even if you just want to play for fun, it's really nice. Heraldic Beast gets some more support in Alliance Insight. Not super relevant if you want to play like a pure Heraldic Beast deck. It is kind of copium, but if you want to play the Heraldic Beast engine in Raziel, or the other way around, a Raziel engine in Heraldic Beast, then we're talking, because X-Raziel sending the Heraldry Patriarch is extremely terrifying. It is a 1-card hand loop for 5. Yes, you heard that correctly. Although, I'm not gonna lie, it is probably not the correct way to play the deck, because otherwise your extra deck is gonna be extremely fake. And you also have to play a lot of weird cards in your deck. As a matter of fact, you're probably making your deck worse, just to be able to hand loop your opponent, which is only relevant if we are in a board breaker format. And again, we gotta stop the cap. It's always gonna be a hand trap format. People are probably gonna side the board breakers and maybe main some board breakers, but they're not gonna main 20 board breakers and 0 hand traps. That is never gonna be a thing. Okay, Cyber Dragon gets some more support in Alliance Insight, but it's, yeah, no comment. I'm gonna make a video on this very soon, don't worry. The Evil Twin support is beyond insanity. It is way too good, like actually way too good. The monster is insane, the Link 1 is insane. This deck is extremely good with the Fiendsmith engine, and by the way, this Link 1 is a Light Fiend monster. I swear to god, they actually did it on purpose. It's actually so freaking cracked, it makes no sense. So yeah, you can play the Sprite engine, you can play the Fiendsmith engine and Evil Twin, so many possibilities. And the last card, this is supposed to be Dragon's Mind, not Dragon's Bind. Essentially, if you control a monster, any monster, not a dragon monster, any monster with 25 original attack or defense, whenever your opponent activates a monster, spell, or trap card, you negate the activation, and if you do destroy. And also, if it's in your graveyard, you can pay 2,500 life points, and you reset it back on your field, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. So it's like a solemn judgment that recurs itself back, and it's really good in a bunch of decks. So definitely recommend looking into this card. And finally, the last card from Alliance Insight is a Talker Aister. It's a generic Link 5 monster that can negate just about anything by attributing any Link monster it points to. So it's an extremely cracked card, and it's also very, very good in Malice. So again, like I said, Malice becomes even better, not only with a new Wizard Aister and backup Aister, but also with a new Link 5 monster. And maybe people are going to be respecting Malice a little less in the future, I'm not sure. And I just realized that I forgot to talk about Clockwork Knight, which is another cool card that's coming out in Supreme Darkness, and that card can search Clockwork Knight, so it can search something that basically, like, it sounds the exact same way, and this card is really nice in Cyber Dragon, or, I guess, Earth Machine, whatever, but especially, what is most important is the fact that Clockwork Knight is just a better replacement of, Salmon Creed El Mirage, so that's, the number one thing that you really have to know. But, yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what are your favorites, cards that are coming out in 2025, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.